mean, it's still the same as far as player meetings are concerned. With him, he had different issue than the rest of the team, and dealing with from the suspension stuff, and I'm gonna still have my meeting with him. He's still a part of the program, and it'll be addressed after we visit.
Is resolved court cases or whatever against those three players being resolved? Does that have any effect on your outlook or what they're going to do?
No, that process was handled by the other two players, is what I'm saying, and the right way. So that's where it's at with him.
Chris, you talked about your meeting with Mario, that you heard things that you didn't, that you needed to hear. Can you take us through some of that, and maybe when you evaluate where things are now as opposed to following the Sweet 16 season, what has to change?
Well, I mean, that's obviously stuff that we obviously don't want to probably share any of that was said, but the thing about it is change came about from it, and that's the most important thing. Like I said, it can't be the status quo. It has to be changed. We both talked about some of the things we talked about in the meeting, but as far as specifics, it was a very good meeting.
When you look at the issues, what's as far as for you, maybe the thing that has to change specifically, that I need to do better for this to go forward?
Well, I think that I got to be the head recruiter again. I got to be out. That was my deal. I worked like an assistant. That's the reason, that I've had success, because I've been gone all the time. I've worked as if I wasn't the head coach, and I think that's the number one thing that about myself that I have to do more of and get back to doing again.
And then also, what changes do you need out of your staff? If you're making changes in your staff, what do you need out of them to?
Well, I think I don't think it's fair to discuss the specifics of that side of it. It's really my program. So if the head's got to get right before the body does. So I think that that'll be addressed once I correct my own issues.
Yeah, that's a great word you use, rumors, because there was a ton of them on that and many, many other issues, and that's just what they were. I will say this, that there is not one topic that has to do with SIU athletics that finances aren't virtually at the top of the consideration list in everything that goes on. Certainly with the way of the financial shape the athletic program is in, the university and the state of Illinois. So, as far as discussions on finances, there's not one thing that Mark Scally, our CFO, isn't brought in on, because every single thing is affected. But I'd answer by saying you used a terrific word, and that was rumors.
Mario, if the season next year doesn't get better than the last 3 seasons, how much pressure will you feel to make a change?
Well, obviously we were certainly aware that our fans were frustrated, upset. So that's something that you can't escape from. My email inbox, telephone, letters, things like that. At the same time, I don't think, as an ex-athlete, I don't think it's ever healthy to say, man, if you have to do this or else. That's no way to. I think putting some pressure on yourself can be a good thing, but putting a specific metric down from an athletic standpoint, especially when you're got a lot of brand new freshmen coming in that we're very high on, but they're just that, freshmen. You're going to have some new players. I just don't think that's healthy for the program to set out, you've got to do X, Y, and Z. I think there are some things that will be visible to the eye, as well as what we had in our discussions that will tell me, hey, the program is moving forward, whether it's in the academic arena, whether it's in the organizational aspect of things, whether it's, us playing hard for all 40 minutes. So I think there's a lot of things that I'll be able to see, and certainly things that we discussed, but it's not like we had a list of 10 things that must be done or else this versus that. So I want to keep the review, a little more subjective than objective.
This is for Chris.
Number one, and it's so crazy. We talked about guard play all year, and I was very public. And I know that, as a coach, it frustrates me And I sometimes I get upset and I overanalyze things before I get a chance to watch film and I say things about players, and that's just me. That's how I was as a player, and that's not right. But you asked my teammates who played with me, and I was the same way with them, and we had success. And I was the same way when we had a good team. When Jamal Tatum was wrong, he was wrong. And that's just the way it is. It can't be masked because we're winning, and those are things I have to change. I understand that in this day and age where you have instant gratification, where they can go right away and express their feelings and emotions right away to the world. It has to be more important that I have to have more patience with them, I think, and I think that's the key. But back to your question, it was all about guards. Then we saw in the turn, we got things turned around, and our guards were actually really good, and they did the things that I needed them to do from day one. And just understanding some of the things we changed late and having the level of commitment from them the same, without having distractions, I think allowed them to realize, man, we're pretty good when we just do this certain thing.
Have been those talks or any influence at all?
Well, I just talked to Dr. Chang from a campus level because it's a campus issue. I certainly go over everything with the boss, that's Dr. Rita Chang. But she has been very good and very supportive of athletics. So, certainly we, I always brief her on everything that we want to do, and make sure everything's copacetic with her. But she's been very supportive, and much like any subordinate to a supervisor, I would think that they would run everything, ultimately, by the chancellor. But she's been very supportive of my recommendations, and that was it. My recommendation along with coaches.
I think the low point was losing senior night and obviously the Drake game. Those were obviously extremely, and I've never experienced anything like that, where you play that way, and in front of your home crowd, and that was maybe the lowest point in my coaching career, from an assistant to any level. I think the high point was seeing how hard they play in the conference tournament, and actually seeing guys do what we asked them to do. And I think that's the key. And as a staff, that's what we had to evaluate. Why then? When talking tomorrow, why then? Was it because I was more involved? Was it because I was more forceful and everything? I can answer that, but I know I was different in those games, in those approaches. And I think that, if you look at it, those two things were the high and the lows.
Chris, we talked about pressure before and how much pressure you put on yourself, obviously, as an alum. How do you move forward going the next season and not letting the kids see that pressure maybe and not affecting the play next year?
I mean, I've been under pressure my whole life. I've been too little to play. I haven't been good enough to go Division I. I mean, I haven't been able to, you can't recruit at this level, you can't do. I mean, those pressures have always existed with me. I've been an underdog my whole life. So, at this point, maybe this is what I need to get back to where I've had success at working with my back against the wall, feeling like each day is the toughest day, and looking forward to moving forward, saying to myself every day, there is no such thing as a bad day, and that's what I used to have to get back to. It's been away from me, and thinking that way gets you to overcome a lot of stuff.
What do you want the number one thing to be about your team next year that people notice right away?
That we're going to fly around. We're going to play in a frenzy. Those are the things that I'm known for, and it's not just in these circles, which are only our fans. And I think that's a big deal. What the people closest to you think, and for people to say I don't care what people think, that's not true. It bothers me. It bothers me when I hear people think I don't care. It bothers me when I've heard that people wanted me out, because I know what I put into getting to this point is far more than they see on the surface level. And, our guys are going to play hard. And, having the understanding of how I am has to come across to them much quicker.
We have time for maybe one or two more questions.
Coach, when you talk about rebuilding the program, clearly when Southern's had success in the past, they've had the older guys, the fourth and fifth year guys, and really just that hasn't happened the last 3 years. How does that change? Obviously, the last couple of years you had a lot of junior college
Right, I think we're, redshirting is important, but we also do have some older guys that will be back, third, fourth, and fifth year guys, which is the blueprint for our success. And, I think that the whole, the JUCO last year was an aberration because we had to do it at that point to maintain, to get a class balance that would allow us to go and get 4 high school kids right away this fall.